Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the CertiK Security Leaderboard Showcase. I'm your host, Jesse. As you know, in this showcase, I host a project for a live AMA where we discuss their work with CertiK. We touch on the recently launched Skynet for Community platform, and we throw in some questions submitted by you, the viewers. Our goal is to raise the standard of security and transparency across the entire Web3 ecosystem. The Skynet Security Leaderboard, found at skynet.certik.com, is a free tool to help you safely navigate the blockchain world. Today's featured project is Gala Games, a blockchain-based global gaming platform. And to talk about Gala, we have Jason, head of blockchain. Jason, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How's it going for you?
Doing very well. Great to have you back. We had you on a couple months ago, but I think there have been some big developments recently. So looking forward to talking about that. We also have Mikhail from CertiK on today. Mikhail, how's it going?
Yes. It's going really well. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Good little panel discussion we've got here. Let's get through the intros real quick. So Mikhail, do you want to go first? And then Jason, I'll let you take the second slot.
Sure, absolutely, Jesse. Great to be here. So I'm Mikhail. I do BD and partnership initiatives here at CertiK. So essentially I work with projects such as Gala and helping ensure that they're safe and also provide that level of transparency and confidence for the community.
Awesome. And Jason?
I am the president of blockchain at Gala Games. We are currently working on bringing Web3 gaming to the masses, and currently about 50 different games in development. And one of the reasons that we are excited to work with companies like CertiK are because for us, it's very, very important to keep you guys safe as well. So they are one of the people that we go to for all of our auditing, and we've been doing a lot of that lately as we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up here.
I think president of blockchain is one of the coolest titles I've seen. So congrats on scoring that one for yourself.
I mean, my technical title is Barbarian Path of the Berserker. It even says it on my my hoodie. But president of blockchain is a good second, I suppose.
I think so. So we had you on a couple of months ago, and you discussed a lot of what Gala Games was doing, what you were planning. Do you just want to give a quick little intro for viewers who might have missed that one? What is Gala Games? What are you working on?
Sure. So, I mean, Gala started from the perspective of how do we give people true ownership of in-game assets. Our founder, Eric Schiermeyer, is one of the co-founders of Zynga. A lot of the people who were early involved in the company come from the Web 2 gaming space. And, you know, the whole question is like, okay, Web 2 gaming and, you know, sort of the old way, there wasn't even a Web 2 or Web 3, by the way, when this started, but the old way of gaming needs to change. It needs to be updated. And so Web 3 ownership enabled by blockchain, allowing people to have, you know, true rights and true freedoms with their in-game assets, was the core sort of thesis statement of what Gala Games was founded upon. And since that time, we have grown incredibly to almost 400 people right now, working across several different entertainment verticals. But, you know, my main focus is in the gaming space and working with the rest of our game development teams. As I said, we have about 50 different titles currently in the pipeline somewhere. These range from very, very high-end AAA style shooters like Last Expedition to, you know, 4X titles like Echoes of Empire and Battlestar Galactica, and, you know, titles such as The Walking Dead Empires and Miranda's, which is an MMORPG that is being developed internally. We've got a lot going on, and we're very, very happy to share that with your community.
No, that's great, and sounds like there's a lot going on. 50 titles, 400 people. That's
400 internal people. That doesn't include everybody who's working on those titles. A lot of those titles are third-party titles, and they have their own development teams of, you know, varying sizes. So it's a lot more than 400 if you were to look at it in aggregate.
For sure, collaborators and everybody who's involved. Awesome. So you recently underwent another audit by CertiK. Can you just talk about what that was for, and maybe the Gala V2 token as well?
Sure. So when we originally launched the Gala token, it was a fair launch to the via our node network. When we originally did that, there were certain things about that contract that while they were perfect for the time, they did not fit where we needed this to go in the future. One of the, for example, one part of that is the burn mechanism. The original contract for Gala on Ethereum did not correctly decrement burns. And because we have a very strong interest in security and making sure that, there are no problems with bridges and things like that. All of our bridges operate on sort of the burning bridges principle. So anytime you move something from Geary to Ethereum or back, that token is burnt on the sending side, essentially. So there's no collateralized bridge wrapped token concept. Now, in order for this to work, burning has to work correctly, and it didn't. And so we had a few different updates. That was one of them. Increased security through the integration of Gnosis multi-sig wallets for reserves and minters and things like that was another critical update. And upgradability in the future was another very important piece. And we went through multiple rounds of audits with you guys, and make sure that we dealt with every conceivable issue that you guys could raise. And I believe at the end of the day, got a remarkably clean bill of health on all of that. So thank you for what you guys did and your contributions there.
Well, thank you for implementing the remediations we suggested. I just took a look at the audit, and it's available at skynet.certik.com. Just search for Gala Games. The audit is there. So 9 findings, of which 9 were resolved. So that's really great to see. I mean, as an auditor, we can't force clients to implement the findings that the suggested remediations, but when they do, we make that public, we make that known, and yeah, that's what you guys did. So that's really great to see.
And our next step actually is, I think, going through your guys' KYC team verification process, which I believe we're kicking off here shortly. So
that's a great one to touch on, actually. I think it's super important. The KYC, everyone's pretty familiar with KYC. You sign up for an exchange, you submit your own documents, you basically give away your most sensitive information just to be able to use a service. But KYC for project teams is another thing where the team member, so you as a core team member, will actually verify your own identity with our investigators in a very sort of private, secure manner, but a very comprehensive way. And then that really, once you've got your badge, gold, silver, bronze badge, depending on the level of verification, then the customers will see that you've sort of stood publicly behind your project.
Yeah.
Maybe Mikhail, you could speak a little bit about this. You, I'm sure, are quite familiar with the pitching this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you nailed it right there. It's all about providing transparency and confidence. And the thing is, even for the most reputable brands that are in the space, it's still a very good way to, one, ensure that everyone on the team, right? We live in a digital world. And so sometimes some projects don't really know who exactly their CTO is. Everything is done through Telegram or LinkedIn. And so it's a good way to kind of give a little background check, so to speak, on your team. But also there are always new users coming into this space and learning about your brand. So one of the things that I really like about what Gala is doing is, although they are a very reputable name in this space and very trusted, they understand that there are more people coming in, more adoption is around the corner. And so how do you create the most transparent way to say, hey, we have nothing to hide, right? And so through a KYC process, the identity is verified, just not disclosed, right? So the trusted party here being CertiK has verified the identity of the folks behind Gala, and that provides a certain level of transparency and confidence for the community.
For sure. And you get a gold, silver, or bronze badge to proudly display. And I've talked to our investigators who do the KYC investigations, and these are like ex-law enforcement, ex-intelligence people. They really know what they're doing. So it is a very comprehensive process, and it's great to hear, Jason, that you're going through that. And Mikhail, you raised an interesting point, actually. In Web3, when so many teams are decentralized all across the world, you may not have ever met your collaborators face-to-face. It gives the teams an added layer of confidence that your collaborators are who they say they are legit, reputable, all that sort of thing. So I think it's a really Web3 native sort of solution. And I look forward to it growing in adoption. And it's great to hear, Jason, that this is something you believe in too.
Well, it's very much a philosophical thing for me personally. I mean, I've been in the blockchain space for a long time, and this was way before there were PFPs. That people kind of were able to I don't want to say hide behind, because I don't think that's necessarily the right term, but I remember 2014, 2015, 2016, all of these ICO projects popping up with people with cartoon cats, or a duck, or, something. And that was just, who they were. And they were, some random screen name like Bitbender, with a cartoon picture. And I've always believed that if you're going to do something, you should do it the right way, and you should stand behind it visibly. And this is a continuation of that belief. And that's one of the reasons that, our team is public, and there are members of our team that are, astonishingly public. We're very, very much out there engaging with the community in an open and transparent fashion. And, this is the next step of that, is like, okay, yes, we are who we say we are. We have done the things that we say we've done. And, here we are. And it's all about that removing doubt, and removing that, sort of that uncertainty that surrounds things sometimes. This is another reason that we just burnt 2 weeks ago now, on the 15th. We burnt 20.9 billion Gala, which was essentially the entire team reserve of Gala, because that feeds back into the way that the founders nodes operate. And it makes it so that at the end of the day, there is not some gigantic pile of team held tokens that can just be dumped. And it's about just removing that fear and letting people understand that, look, we're committed to this ecosystem. We're committed to it with our faces, with our identities, with who we are, with what we are, with really everything, because that's what it takes to build something in the space. Is you have to be willing to build and sacrifice for it. And that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. So how do you balance, obviously, wanting to financially support the future of the project without having 20 billion tokens to dump on people?
Well,
what's the thought process there?
So we do receive a portion of the daily distribution from the nodes. So we do have an income stream that comes in that we can liquidate if we need to. The idea is that we need to be able to support ourselves as a project on this small trickle, rather than like, oh, we have this big thing here, let's just sell some of that, because that's that type of behavior, I think, in the long run is unsustainable. But the ecosystem itself can handle and does in fact handle and burn quite a few tokens via purchases and everything else that happens in the ecosystem. So that's the basic idea. And on top of that, you have revenue that comes in from sales, and people buy things with Ethereum and with credit cards and all of that, which all contribute directly to the bottom line and do contribute to rev shares for our partners and things like that. But that's the basic premise behind it.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. I think having that sort of like consistent income stream that's very dependent on the success of your ecosystem is a great way of funding it, rather than some massive war chest that can be dumped at any time.
Man, I hate the concept of pre-mines so freaking much. And even though we had a fair launch there and there was no pre-mine, I think that fundamentally, from the perspective of a random person, random dude that knows nothing about us, coming in and looking at the distribution, seeing that, going, okay, that's kind of weird that they're holding, this massive pile of tokens, and that's just a negative thing, and we didn't want that to continue that way. So.
Absolutely. And it actually touches on a question, an audience submission that I was going to get to. I saw some drama on Twitter the other day about NFT gaming project that had not really delivered on its promised roadmap, and had changed timelines and details and all that sort of thing. So I was going to ask, how do you see the commitments that you make to your community? Obviously, as long as you stick to them, there's that trust built and everything. But yeah, what's the thought process there when it comes to deadlines, roadmaps, that sort of thing?
So there's a couple interesting parts here. The first is that And this is going to sound a little bit like a cop out, but it's not. The reality is that building stuff is hard, and anyone who has built things in tech, specifically in the gaming space, knows that deadlines slip all the time. Now, that's not an ideal situation. You never want that to happen, but it is a thing that happens, and it happens on a regular basis in both Web 2 and Web 3. The key is that you're able to have communications with people as you move forward, so that people understand that, okay, yeah, this thing is slipped. It is slipped because of A, B, and C, whatever it happens to be. And, it hasn't been abandoned. It's not by the wayside. It's just, been pushed back a little bit. I don't know exactly what project it was that you're talking about, since there are a lot of projects that have not delivered on their promises out there in the space. Really an astonishing number. Very, very few have. So I can't speak specifically to that instance. But for us, it's about having that communication, that open communication with the community, so that everybody can understand sort of where things are and where you're going. And that's one of the reasons that we're constantly in Discord and constantly on Twitter. And, I get DMs on Twitter and things like that regularly asking about stuff. And I engage with those all the time, because it's about that openness.
For sure. And this comes back to the openness of the KYC. When you give a roadmap or explain why something is taking a little longer than initially thought, people are trusting a face and a name. They're not trusting an anonymous developer who's sitting on $10 million, who doesn't necessarily have any incentive to actually deliver. So, that's a really good point. Mikhail, so I think probably you have a pretty good understanding of the ecosystem and the different projects out there. What just if you want to share any thoughts that you have on what we've been discussing, just how do you see the landscape of gaming at the moment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say, Jason, kudos to you and the team, because I feel like when you do an upgrade, when you make a transition from V1 to V2, I saw all of the educational content that you were putting out there through your Twitter, making sure that all the people that had the tokens, made sure that they, got the V2. So congratulations to you and the rest of the team for such a successful transition. In terms of the gaming landscape, it's interesting because I spend a lot of time talking to very early stage games. And one thing's for sure is a lot of them want funding, right? Because they are very small and they are very early stage. And so in order to make sure that they have a runway, a lot of them are securing funding. And when you talk to a lot of the venture capitalists out there, they want to see an actual product, right? And that's the thing that really, I feel like, separates what Gala is doing. It's not just ideas, it's an actual working game that you can go and you can experience yourself. And there's not too many out there. So I think first and foremost, having something tangible is definitely key. And the other thing is, where to deploy, right? It's a debate that I think could take an entire day for us to have. There's a lot of great chains, layer 2 solutions that are coming out, offering a lot of great solutions in terms of making it very welcoming for games to come and deploy. But ultimately, I think it's a little early to tell which one's going to be the main player. Right now, I feel like players like Gala are really the ones that are leading the charge in the gaming space.
Yeah, Jason, what were your considerations when choosing where to deploy and which chains Gala would live on?
Well, originally we deployed on Ethereum, and a lot of our NFTs are still on Ethereum. Ethereum is not an optimal solution, just for a variety of reasons. It's too slow, it's too congested, and honestly, it doesn't do what is needed for gaming, which creates an interesting problem, because there are a lot of different chains out there and a lot of different L2s and things like that. But the reality is that none of them are really suited for gaming. Not really suited for gaming. I mean, you have these, And I love it too, because you see like the transactions per second that various projects will publish. They're like, we can do 1 billion empty transactions per second. They're just like pouring zeros into blocks, right? And for us, this is why we made the decision that while we are going to be in some sense is a multi-chain project, and that we'll have things on Ethereum, and we'll have bridges that go out to other L2s and whatnot. We're working on internal bridges right now to Polygon and BNB chain and places like that. In the long run, we need our own L1. And so that's one of the things that we're in the process of pushing out right now. And we have a whole raft of audits coming your guys' way for some of that. But that's ultimately what it boils down to for us, is that we need something that can handle transactions in a way that most solutions out there don't. And we're very excited about that.
That's great to hear. You'll be keeping our auditors busy in in the near future.
Jason, so it's interesting you mentioned about your plans for having your own chain. So is it just a matter of speed and just having that throughput for transactions, or are there other elements that you need to consider when making the decision to build your own chain versus utilizing an existing one?
So essentially what it boils down to for us is multiple factors. Speed and throughput are obviously critical considerations. I say this because most of the blockchain gaming space, okay, blockchain is a tiny industry. It's tiny. Anyone who has ever gone on the conference circuit in the blockchain space realizes how like minuscule this industry is, because you can, I spent all of last year going from conference to conference to conference to conference to conference all over the world. And every single conference I went to, and it doesn't matter if it was Binance Blockchain Week in Paris, or, Philippines Blockchain Week in Manila, or, VCon, whatever it is, all of those places had 30% of the same people that just went from conference to conference to conference to conference to conference. Now, what this does is this gives you a very interesting perspective, because we, live, eat, and breathe blockchain, right? So if blockchain feels massive to people inside of blockchain, but sort of on a global scale, on an international scale, on an industrial scale, it's tiny, right? And so what happens a lot of times is you have blockchain people who are passionate about gaming, and blockchain people who are passionate about gaming approach things from a blockchain perspective. So they go and they build a blockchain-based game. Okay. But that blockchain-based game is typically made to handle blockchain scale traffic, which is tiny. Okay. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And, you take a game like Farmville, right? Farmville, everyone has played Farmville. Anyone who had a Facebook account in the early days of Facebook, was used to seeing like 15 billion freaking notifications about, wandering cows and helping your aunt plant her strawberries and, all of that stuff, right? The interesting thing about Farmville is that Farmville, which, side note, put a pin in this, was built by Mark Skaggs, who is leading some of our game development initiatives inside of Gala right now. So that's a cool thing. But Farmville peaked out at 134 million DAU. Okay. It's 134 million. That's like multiple times the total number of people who are in blockchain, like many times. And so the solutions that you need for that are entirely different, and they have to be architected in a way that is entirely different from sort of the way that we run most blockchains. If you took 134 million DAU and threw it at any 3 blockchains combined, they would all catch on fire and burn down. Right. And so this is kind of one of the considerations that we made when looking at things and saying, okay, we're not actually trying to build blockchain games. We're trying to build games, real games that normal people who are not blockchain people want to come and play. And if that's the case, we need to be able to handle normal people, normal game traffic volume. And so that's sort of one of the stakes that we put in the ground for how we build things out. And another consideration is being able to take some of these things and to isolate different parts of the chain from one another. So we have various asset channels that run on the chain. So if you were to go to explorer.gala.games, you can look at this and you can see our asset channel running, and the asset channel is handling transactions for tokens. And then we have a spider tanks channel running, and that spider tanks channel handles only transactions for spider tanks. And they are entirely separate, but running together. You can think of them as like side chains, parachains, things like that. People use all sorts of different terms for them, but that's basically the thing. So we can, based on what granularity of data we're looking for, we can horizontally scale as widely as we need to. And because we have a node network of 50,000 nodes total, I think it's like 36,000 or something like that are online right now. We have 36,000 nodes that we can push this out over and horizontally scale as broadly as we need to. And that is going to be critical to the long-term success and growth of the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Appreciate you touching on the technical side of scaling there. We have another audience question submission that's a little more about cultural scaling, I guess you could call it.
Sure.
How do you plan to spread awareness about your project in different countries where English is not necessarily the main language? How do you think about,
Sure,
reaching across cultures like that?
Reaching across cultures is always a very interesting challenge, because different groups of people simply think of things in a very, very different way. And so that creates some interesting challenges sometimes. So for us, we focus on building communities, right? Community is one of the things that I feel we do really, really well. We have an incredibly active Discord community, very active, high engagement, Twitter, all of these things. We're very, very plugged into the community. And so the way that we look at this is we want to take some of those basic concepts, modify them to fit whatever the local appetites for information and engagement are, and then set up other communities sort of adjacent to the main community that handle other other languages and whatnot. So we currently have extremely active South Korean community. We have a very active community in the Philippines. We have a very active community, a couple of them in South and Central America and Brazil. This is the way that we kind of do that. And then we come in and we engage with those communities as heavily as possible. I do not speak Korean, but that doesn't mean that I can't go and, sit down and talk to the Korean community. Every time I travel, wherever it is that I'm going, I get together with that community, answer questions, give a little bit of alpha, have some barbecue, have a few beers, whatever it is, and, just connect and engage. And that's one of the things that I feel is most important.
Definitely. With there's no borders in Web3, but that means there's a whole lot of different communities to bring into one, and it sounds like you're doing a great job of that.
We do our best. It is not easy. There are definitely obstacles, but it generally speaking goes fairly well.
Yeah, obstacles. I'm sure. Coming up close to time, Mikhail, did you have any questions for Jason that you wanted to get to?
Yeah, actually, I do. Jason, you just talked about building a community, and you mentioned that you have a very engaged community. Is it just about, hey, build good games, and then the community will be engaged, or like what are some of the things that Gala is doing to create this growing, amazing community?
One of the things that is the most important to us in regards to that is this concept of, as Michael McCarthy, the game director for Miranda, says, he wants to show everybody how the sausage is made, right? In the gaming space, it's very common for you to have a game that is in development, okay? And you may know that it exists, but you don't really know anything about it. Unless you are insanely close to somebody on that development team, it's basically a black box until it releases. And sometimes it releases and that it does great and everyone loves it. Other times it releases and you kind of look at it and wonder, I wonder what they were thinking. Why did they do that? This is terrible, right? And everyone has seen this. And if you are unfamiliar with this, just go hang out in a gaming subreddit and just, look at the vitriol when a game comes out that people don't absolutely love. And even then, because, honestly, gamers are they can be a little bit toxic sometimes. But for us, when it comes to engaging with the community, it's about showing what we're working on, showing what we're building, letting people get engaged with it, get their hands on it, play it, try it, test it, and then give feedback. And this is really, really important, listen to that feedback and integrate it where you can. Now, that doesn't mean every time anyone demands anything that it's automatically going to happen, but pay special attention to what people say. And if you hear a whole bunch of people saying something, definitely pay attention, because they're probably saying it for a reason, and you probably need to, sort of check yourself and make sure that you're taking care of things in a way that works for that community.
You raised a good point about gamers being passionate, and I'm sure that when you've got them holding a token as well, that ups the stakes.
Oh my God, the number of random messages I get that say, why number not go up, or pump the token, or I get a rather staggering number of death threats about token prices. And it's like, this token is was this amount when I bought it, and now it's this amount, and it's your fault. And it's like, guys, look at the market. Okay. Look at literally everything out there. Okay. And if that's your main point of concern, we're basically exactly in line with literally everything else that isn't a random meme token, right? Which I think, I would hesitate to put anything up against a crazy weird meme coin. And secondly, it's not, markets do what markets do. We build games, we build stuff. And yes, we take care of the token, we take care of tokenomics, but we don't control prices, nor can we ever. That's not how it works.
For sure. Sounds like they need to have that chat over some beers and barbecue with you. And
I'd love to. I've had that conversation, and it's funny because you have those conversations, and it starts out with, why isn't this way? Oh, well, it isn't that way because of A, B, and C. Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Is usually the way it ends up. It can be fun sometimes.
For sure. Many interesting challenges to overcome and to confront, in building Web3 gaming systems. So, yeah, we're nearly out of time. But as you said, maybe you can drop some alpha for us. You said you do that in your little chats. So if you have any alpha to share, you did say you'll be having a lot of audits coming up. So
we do. We've got the name for our L1 that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. I can't drop the name here because the lawyers will teleport into my office and shoot me. But we've got that coming here pretty soon. We've got a lot of game releases that are creeping up on coming out here pretty soon, and all of them are leaning very heavily on our L1, and we've got some even fun stuff like Poker Go and other games like that are coming out, and an increased heavy focus on mobile. So definitely pay special attention to what's going on there. For games like Spider Tanks, Meow Match, Dragon Strike. There's a lot coming.
It's great to see your ecosystem grow, and and it sounds you've been up to a whole lot since we had you on last time, and I look forward to having you on again a few months from now when you can finally, when the lawyers give you permission to share the name of that L1 and it launches, and it's been great. Thanks for the chat, Jason.
Thank you so much.
And where can people find more about Gala?
So the best place to find more about Gala, you can go to gala.com, GALA.com, and that will get you kind of the entrance to the entire ecosystem. But I also recommend that if you're interested in games, if you're a gamer, join our Discord at galagames.chat. Go in there, say hi, join Gala Gold so you can get in that Gala Gold chat room. And that's where you find me on a very regular basis, there talking to the community, engaging with people, answering questions. You know, and it's very important to be a strong member of that community. And you can also reach me directly at BitbenderBrink on Twitter. So
awesome, plenty of resources there. And Mikhail, any closing remarks?
Just again, I want to say it's been so far it's been such a great pleasure to work with Gala. I'm looking forward to more collaborations. And if anybody in the audience listening has any questions about CertiK, has any questions about security specifically, feel free to reach out to me. You can look me up at LinkedIn, it's my first and last name, or it's at Jürgen Giev, which is my last name. Yeah, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, on Telegram, in certain scenarios. So happy to connect.
Awesome. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you, Jason. It's been a great chat.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.